I did everything right and they indicted me.
And I don't know what the I'm doing. Antifa!
Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. We are so excited to be here for this special additional daytime stream. These streams let us speak to people in different parts of the world because obviously it's hard to do a nighttime stream. Our regular stream is Tuesdays at 7 p.m. and it is hard for us to speak to people in other areas of the world. So in order to bring you really amazing guests live, we are doing these daytime streams. So thank you so much for joining. And please do make sure that you subscribe, because if you subscribe by hitting subscribe and then the bell, that's a way that you can make sure that you know about these additional streams. Also do please like the stream. That helps us with the algorithmic suppression that we face. And of course, please do become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And that is a way that you'll be able to watch this full stream if you don't catch it live. In order to see the full stream, you can find that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. For $5 a month, you get the bonus content. And if you can't swing it, we understand. But for $1 a month, $12 a year, you get to just make this show happen. And we literally could not make this show happen without your support. We have two wonderful guests on today. In fact, someone in the comments said we don't deserve this. Of course, you deserve this, but it is definitely quite a treat to have these amazing guests. We're going to be speaking. Our second guest is Andreína Chávez, who is a Caracas-based Venezuelan journalist. She's going to give us an update about this part of the world and all the havoc that was wreaked, of course, by the illegal kidnapping of Maduro. But first, we are so excited to be speaking with a hero to so many people watching. Member of parliament, basically, I don't know what you would call, I mean, kind of a revolutionary leader and a longtime activist involved in so many important causes from Central America to Palestine. He needs no introduction, really. Jeremy Corbyn. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you for inviting me on, Katie. Lovely to see you. Of
course. Yes, you too. So amazing to see you. And we're just going to jump into it because, of course, you're so busy being an elected, really being a servant of the people, and also such a tireless activist and advocate, especially for the people of Palestine. And you testified at the Gaza tribunal in Istanbul that I had the honor of attending and speaking at. So thank you so much for your voice. I wanted to start off by talking about Trump's Board of Peace, and in particular, the role of Tony Blair. And he, of course, is someone who you know, for better or for worse, quite well, politically speaking, at least. Tell us about your views on the Board of Peace, and also what does the world need to know about Tony Blair and the significance of his involvement in this venture?
Well, first of all, let's be very clear. The Board of Peace should simply not exist. There should not be a Board of Peace. It is a ludicrous concept, and it is a ludicrous proposal being put forward by President Trump. The issue surely should be that the Palestinian people should have a right to decide their own future. They're not even represented on the Board of Peace. And I was asked about this on a news program the other evening in London, and I just said, well, it's a rogues gallery of people that have been put together in order to carve up what remains of Gaza. And there are already ideas coming out about where the new tower blocks are going to go, where the beach resort's going to go, and so on. They seem to forget this is home to 2 million people. This has been largely destroyed by bombing by Israel, with bombs supplied by the USA, with the support of Britain and France and so many others. And the only thing on the agenda should be the complete withdrawal of all Israeli forces from Gaza, and the resources being pumped in to allow the Palestinian people to decide their own future. We had a very interesting discussion a couple of months back at the Peace and Justice Project with a group called Architects for Gaza. They are Palestinian architects for the most part, and the remains of the local authorities within Gaza. And they were working out what they wanted to build and what they wanted there. And they wanted to make sure there was farmland. They wanted to make sure it was sustainable. They wanted to make sure there was housing. And they wanted to make sure that there was full access to the coast for all Palestinians living in Gaza. This proposal by Trump is the very opposite of all of that. It's back to the Riviera plan. I'm not quite sure how he intends to fund it, but I heard a figure of $1 billion sort of entry fee to join the Board of Peace, so-called, which I assume government's going to play. You mentioned Tony Blair's involvement in it. Well, yes, I've had many dealings with Tony Blair over many, many years, when he was leader of the Labour Party and when he was also obviously Prime Minister, and the issue of the Iraq War. Since he stepped down in 2007, Tony Blair has become incredibly rich, runs a financial institution which essentially deals with company mergers and financial advice, and he has also set up the Tony Blair Foundation and a few other things like that. He always tried to keep on being the Middle East envoy for the quartet when he stepped down as Prime Minister. George Bush apparently reluctantly agreed that Blair could carry on doing this. I've no record of anything useful he ever did during that period, but he's clearly feels that he and his group can play some role in what they term the rebuilding of Gaza. I think the best role they can play is to keep way out of it. They should be nowhere near it.
Right. Yes. Amen to that. And for people who are watching, especially younger people, can you talk about what Tony Blair represents in terms of the transformation of the Labor Party? And a Labor Party that you, of course, basically defected from. If you are watching live, you get to see this whole thing. You're so lucky you get to see the whole thing. If you're watching this later and you want to see the full interview, make sure that you go to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Moving forward, we are bringing on, and I will tell you at the very end of the show who Stephen Kapos is. I'm not going to take away time from right now because Andreína Chávez, our next guest, the Caracas-based Venezuelan journalist, is coming back on. And she, of course, much like Jeremy Corbyn, is extremely busy as a journalist. And we're going to move forward, bring her back on, and then I will talk about Stephen Kapos at the end of the show. So welcome back, Andreína. Thank you for joining again. You're muted. So I think you have to unmute yourself, or is that something we can do here? Okay, great.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me again. I was listening to the interview with Jeremy Corbyn, and like you said, it is so nice to hear someone speak so many truths and defend the Palestinian people, but also doing it in this very peaceful, pleasant way.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, we really need that. And of course, Jeremy has been very outspoken when it comes to Latin America, the people ranging from the people of Chile to Cuba to Mexico, Venezuela. So where are we right now? You joined us early on post-kidnapping, and you offered wonderful analysis. Where are we right now? What are the important updates in Venezuela, and especially the things that Western media, of course, omits?
Well, first, I have to say that thankfully Venezuela is at peace right now, and I always like to emphasize that because for the Venezuelan people, reclaiming peace, reclaiming normality, it is a form of resistance. It is a way of saying we are not going to fall into any chaos. We are not going to implode the country just because the United States decided that they were going to kidnap the president of Venezuela. So the country right now is at peace. Everything has more or less go back to normal. Daily life continues. People are going to school, they're going to their jobs, everything is open, everything is working normally. At the same time, we're still seeing these extraordinary expressions on the streets of people rallying, doing these peaceful concentrations, these marches, cultural events, to continue to denounce what happened in Venezuela on January 3rd, to continue to say to everybody who is willing to listen that the Venezuelan people reject what happened here. They reject the the bombing of Caracas and the surrounding areas. They reject the kidnapping of President Maduro and his wife, who is an elected deputy, an elected congresswoman, Celia Flores, and at the same time demanding that President Maduro returns. So we are still seeing that. In fact, right now, like 20 minutes away from where I live, there is a march going on at this very moment of people who are they are commemorating two things. One, it is that the defeat more than 60 years ago of a dictatorial regime that we had in Venezuela by Marcos Pérez Jiménez. So today is like a day of commemorating when the Venezuelan people stood up to this brutal regime that we had here more than 60 years ago. And people are also taking this day to once again denounce that Venezuela it is against foreign intervention and that we are the people want the president that they voted for, the president that they elected to return to Venezuela. And for this pantomime about the whole narco trafficking and the alleged fight against narco trafficking to stop, because I think we have already proven the United States itself, President Trump and all of his officials have already said it out loud, time and time again, that this was never about democracy, this was never about narco trafficking, this was about the United States trying to make Venezuela a colony, a U.S. colony, and trying to take control of Venezuela's resources, especially the oil industry. So that is basically what is happening. Yeah.
Okay. And there are lots of rumors going on about Delcy Rodriguez and her collaborating with Trump. What is your response to those claims? And again, they're not very documented. I just want to present them to you because they're on people's minds. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what happened is that the United States, the Trump administration, they were hoping that by kidnapping President Maduro, Venezuelan institutions will collapse. The entire government will collapse, that the military will rise up against the rest of the Bolivarian government, that we will just go into some kind of chaos or civil war, and then it will be easier for the United States to install a puppet government and to just take over completely. And that didn't happen. Instead, they are confronted with the reality that Venezuela is a united nation, that the Venezuelan people are backing acting President Delcy Rodriguez. They are supporting her because they know that she represents the continuation of the political project that began with Hugo Chavez and that continued with President Nicolás Maduro. And Delcy Rodriguez has been saying that time and time again. She has been visiting communes. If for those of you who don't know, Venezuelan communes are these socialist, community-based organizations. They are the ones who are building socialism in Venezuela. They are the ones who are transforming the country. They are the backbone of political life in Venezuela. So she has been visiting all of these communes and just talking to people, overseeing the sovereign food production that communes bring to Venezuela. And she's doing this to send a message that her government is the continuation of Maduro's government. She is not doing anything different. And she has said it time and time again. She has three priorities for her administration. The first one is to secure peace for Venezuela. And that means that she needs to enter negotiations with the Trump administration. She needs to enter some kind of dialogue with the Trump administration because they have threatened to continue bombing Venezuela. They have threatened to continue this naval blockade against Venezuela and stealing oil tankers that are leaving Venezuela. So she has said, in order to secure peace, we need to enter this dialogue. We need to enter this negotiation, and she's doing just that. The second priority that she has set for her government is to secure the freedom of President Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. And again, in order to do that, she has to deal with the kidnapper. I mean, any family who, if your son is kidnapped, you have to negotiate with the kidnapper. And that's what she's doing right now. She's doing what any family will do when a son, a daughter, or a father is kidnapped by someone. And the third priority of her administration is, of course, to secure political power. And this is so fundamental. I mean, the most important issue right now in Venezuela is to make sure that the Bolivarian government continues, is to make sure that that the entire communal movement, the Venezuela's popular power, continue to be ruling Venezuela alongside the authorities like Delcy Rodriguez. This will ensure that we can continue fighting for sovereignty. This will ensure that in the future we can continue to be an anti-imperialist nation, that we can continue to build this project that began with Hugo Chavez. So those are the priorities that she has. I think mainstream media is, of course, because they didn't achieve what they wanted. They wanted to see these big celebrations in the streets of people being happy that Maduro was abducted, and that didn't happen. So everything goes against the narrative that they have been imposing for so long. And they wanted to see a government that would just self-immolate. They wanted to see a government that would just fall apart without Maduro, and that also didn't happen. So they have to promote this narrative that, oh no, Delcy must be a traitor. She must have been negotiating Maduro's, giving Maduro to the U.S. or something like that. And none of that happened. I mean, what happened is that unfortunately we were the subject of a illegal bombardment, and President Maduro was kidnapped because the United States, they needed some kind of leverage. They needed something to be able to impose this coercion against Venezuela, to be able to enter these oil deals. Basically, my theory about all of this is that the United States needed to, it was being heavily pressured by the oil lobby, by oil companies, to return to Venezuela. So they needed to lift sanctions, but they couldn't lift sanctions because that would mean that defeat for the United States. That would mean that they were defeated. That at the end of the day, after they impose sanctions against Venezuela's oil industry, it is the United States who needs to come back to Venezuela to work in the oil facilities. So they needed to do that, but they needed to make it seem like it was a victory for them in somehow. So they kidnapped the president to make it seem like because we kidnapped the president, now Venezuela is making oil business with the United States, and that's not true. Even before President Maduro was kidnapped, he was publicly saying every single day, we are willing to do business with foreign companies, but we need the United States to lift sanctions against Venezuela, because sanctions are criminal, because sanctions are the ones that are prohibiting foreign companies to come here and work alongside our national state company, PDVSA. So it's not true that Venezuela is now selling oil to the United States because Trump is imposing that. Venezuela was always open to having business with the United States. They just needed to make it seem like it was a victory for them.
Right, exactly. And then you have people who are leftists here or in other countries who are saying that, Delcy Rodriguez has sold out Maduro. And, I think you make such an important point. I mean, what is Delcy Rodriguez supposed to do? You can't have a clear-eyed analysis of the way the United States functions and the power it has over Latin America generally. And its history of interventions and assassinations and coups, and then act like this person can do whatever she wants. And, you actually wrote a very interesting article at Counterpunch called, and you described the abusive relationship between, it's stages of an abusive relationship with the United States. I believe that countries in the global south are in an abusive relationship with the United States. We don't want to be in this domineering cycle of abuse, but unfortunately, the U.S. government will never cease in its ambition to control our lives and resources, which forces us to endlessly resist its aggression. And you talk about how through personal experience, I've come to recognize patterns of manipulation and coercion and how these are reflected in the wider dynamics of imperialism. More importantly, I'm acutely aware of the role played by the enablers who contribute to the perpetuation and escalation of these abuses. U.S. foreign policy cannot exist without the mainstream media peddling it. So can you elaborate on that?
Yes, for sure. So I always like to make sure that we are always aware that imperialism, it is deeply intertwined with patriarchy. Like everything the United States does is deeply intertwined with patriarchy. And in this case, I was making the point that global South nations, we wouldn't have any kind of diplomatic relation with the United States if it wasn't because the United States is always trying to overthrow other governments, is always trying to destabilize our countries, is always trying to sanction our economies, to hijack our economies. So we have to deal with this negotiation. We have to dialogue with these people, with this government, this criminal government that the United States has, in order to try to protect our people from more damage from the United States. So that's something that we have to do. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we're giving up our sovereignty. On the contrary, we are entering into this dialogue, but at the same time, we are reaffirming in the streets, in our own communities, that we are a people who are aware that we have a political project that is important. We are aware that we have a political project that it is the complete contradiction of what the United States wants for the entire world. The United States wants global domination. They want to be he wants to be the puppet master. In Global South nations, we have a political project in which we see the world as a community, in which we collaborate, we employ solidarity, in which we see each other as brothers and sisters. So we enter into dialogue with the United States to avoid more abuse and more persecution and more violation of our sovereignty, but we don't give up our political projects. We don't give up our principles while doing that. That is what Venezuela is doing right now. And when I talk about enablers, I talk about mainstream media, because we all know that none of this would have happened if it wasn't because corporate media has been again and again and again perpetuating this narrative about Venezuela. They began by saying that Hugo Chavez was a dictator. Then the dictator became Nicolas Maduro. Then they moved into this narco state narrative against all evidence to the contrary, against the fact that there is no evidence that Venezuela is a drug-producing country or that it plays any kind of role in global drug trafficking. They have been pushing this narrative. And even now, after the United States kidnapped Maduro, we are seeing how mainstream media is ignoring the fact that the so-called Cartel de los Soles that they wrote about endlessly during these past few years, now it turns out that the U.S. Justice Department has admitted very quietly that they actually don't have any proof that this cartel ever existed. They don't have any proof that President Maduro had any links to these so-called narco-trafficking organizations. So that is why I believe that the U.S. empire wouldn't be nothing without the media that enables all of its lies and violence.
100%. I mean, you see this feedback loop. It's very obvious with Israel, but it's also obvious, I'd say less obvious with Latin America, because people here in the media are less overtly identified with one side. That doesn't mean they're not covertly, but I think Israel is such a good case study because you hear them express so openly their double standard, right? Like, so one side is terrorist, the other side is self-defense, as if the self-defense is bombing schools and refugee camps and killing children. And so that, I think, can be useful because it cracks the claim of objectivity. But we see this so much with Latin America, as you said, and the global South. But, you know, Maduro is a strongman and illegitimate elections, stole the elections, corrupt, drug dealer. Again, all these things said with no proof. I mean, that's what's so frightening about it. But, you know, the people of Venezuela and more largely the global South and even Europe, you know, they are at the facing in many ways. I mean, they're at the barrel of the gun of U.S. foreign policy. So how do you suggest, what can countries and governments do given North America's, the U.S.'s, it's an awkward word, United States' disproportionate power?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And to be honest with you, I do agree with some of the things that have been listened to. People who are marching in the streets, like people from the commune, people from popular organizations, they're saying something that I think is very true. And they're saying that it is time for the rest of the world to sanction the United States. It is time for the rest of the world to boycott the United States. And so people have been calling to begin some boycott, beginning by just small things like, let's stop watching U.S. television because we know that it is a source of propaganda. Let's stop relying on mainstream media. Let's go to the primary sources. Let's go to media who is independent. So I think one of the things that we could do as people, not as governments, but as people, will be to begin this boycott against everything that the U.S. produces, everything that the U.S. stands for. Just try to have a stand as our people. I don't believe that the governments are going to do anything at this point, to be honest with you. I think it's important that we always say that we need to uphold international law and that we need to uphold the principles of sovereignty, self-determination, and, you know, the prohibition of using force against sovereign nations, which are all outlined in the United Nations Charter. And it's important that we say that, but it's also important to recognize that international law it died first in Gaza and then it died again in Venezuela. And right now, that is the reality that we are facing. We are facing a reality in which the United Nations is not doing anything against these atrocities that the United States is committing. It hasn't done anything in more than 60, 70 years that the United States has been funding, financing, and supporting the Palestinian genocide. It hasn't done anything in these 25 years that the United States has been perpetuating this economic sabotage against Venezuela, imposing criminal sanctions that kill thousands of people here. So at this point, I think we cannot really rely on what the United Nations international community can do. I think we as people need to do our own defense. We need to start preparing ourselves to actually, I would say that people need to do the revolution anywhere that they are. We are doing this in Venezuela. We need a revolution in the United States. We need a revolutionary movement in the United States that ends this endless cycle of imperialist aggression against the rest of the world. And I think that's what we need. We need people to rise up and just finally get, because it's not just Trump. Trump is simply like an expression of a long history of U.S. intervention in Latin America and the rest of the world. He is just the person who says everything out loud. He is just the person who is bringing that same fascist regime that the U.S. exports to everywhere else. He's bringing it inside the house. That's why you are now seeing communities in the United States being terrorized by ICE, and that now we're seeing this lack of freedom in the U.S. where people can denounce the genocide in Palestine because they are arrested. I mean, we need a revolution everywhere in the world. We need to completely overhaul all of our governments and all of our international systems.
Yeah, well, amen to that. And also, there is safety in numbers. Like, this applies in terms of labor organizing. But when you have governments and people coming together, that's the only way I think that you can have any balance. So, things like BRICS needs to be more aggressive in defending the rights of the people of the global South. And there are lots of, I think people have to become very creative about ways to challenge the empire.
It is understandable. I mean, we are talking about the fact that the United States is a nuclear power, and
exactly that too, right?
So it's completely understandable that there is some sort of limit to what governments and countries can do, because look at what happened in Venezuela. I mean, I'm sure that everybody else in Latin America is thinking, okay, so this could happen to us too. If we face the United States, if we try to make a stand against what they're doing, we can be the subject of a bombardment. We can be the subject of a kidnapping. So it is a difficult situation because we are dealing with an opponent who really doesn't care about international law, doesn't care about the safety and the well-being of human beings anywhere else in the world. So it is a quite difficult position to be as global South people.
Yeah. Well, Andreína, you are an inspiration because hearing your analysis is very inspiring. And please do come back on the show because we need more voices like yours. And I do really want to start having more regular streams with people who live in the countries that we are talking about so often, because it's important to have people who live there, not just people opining about it. Of course, I don't want to give that, I'm not endorsing that ridiculous view that's often used to just push empire, which is, if you don't live there, you can't comment on it. Are you in Israel? You can't comment on it, which is ridiculous because a lot of the people who say that are happy to comment on Palestine where they also don't live. Anything else you want to say before we wrap for this interview? And again, please, you have an open invitation. So maybe I can have you and Jeremy on together because both of you had such interesting things to say. And
for sure. Well, no, thank you so much for having me. And again, thank you for doing this. I realized with time that it is so important to have spaces like this where people like me can just come and talk. And because mainstream media is so much louder, they have so much more reach than anything I can do here in Venezuela. So it's important for people like you to give an opportunity to someone like me living here in Caracas in Venezuela to speak about what is happening on the ground, to speak about the reality.
Great. Well, thank you again so much, and have a wonderful day. And thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Bye. Wow, that was wonderful. And I really do enjoy speaking to people from different parts of the world. And I would love to have Jeremy and Andreína talk together at some point. And I want to thank everyone for coming to this extra stream. As I said in the beginning, we want to make sure that we can talk to people in different parts of the world. And in order to speak to people in Europe and in West Asia, not to mention, we really have to start doing some shows on Congo and Sudan. we do these extra streams. So make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already subscribed by hitting subscribe and then the bell. I see someone who's backstage. If the person backstage wants to say anything else, give me a thumbs up. If the person is just here to watch, then you can just give me one thumb up if you want to come back, and 2 if you're just watching. Because I want to make sure I give voice to anyone who wants to. Well, not anyone, to people who are invited onto the show. If you missed this and you're watching this later, and you want to see the full stream, please do go to patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show. And of course, we give you all this, free content. And we're so grateful for your support. If you can just do the very funny, someone wrote in the comments 2 thumbs up. If you can just do the $1 a month, which is $12 a year, that again, we really could not do the show without you. Obviously, we live in, unfortunately, the capitalist world system, and people need to pay their rent and buy food and groceries. And thank you so much to Brad for coming on and doing this extra stream. Brad, I'm going to bring you onto the stage. Brad, I want to give you a thank you, face-to-face, virtual face-to-face. Brad is so dedicated. And
I didn't give the 2 thumbs up.
You're right. You didn't give, which is funny because that's actually like the consensus sign, right? But thank you, Brad, for this. We couldn't do the show without Brad. And look at Brad. I don't want to give too much away or rush Brad, but you see he has this cool sound set up behind him, and so we're going to start doing.
It's going to get better.
Yeah, it does. It gets better.
It's a work in progress.
Yes. Oh, also, by the way, if you're watching, I want to make sure I advertise this. There is a benefit for Electronic Intifada, which is a great outlet, and they really did amazing work on Gaza. Its founder is Ali Abunimah, the great journalist Ali Abunimah. Nora Barrows-Friedman is also there. Asa Winstanley is also there, who, of course, is someone who is he's over the pond, English journalist. Nora Barrows-Friedman is based in the States, as is Ali Abunimah. They are doing a Reggie Johnson. God, people are so insane that I'm afraid that these people will get doxxed because, as I experienced last night, these Zionists, some of them are absolutely insane. I made the mistake of writing a comment about someone who had commented on Mahmoud Khalil, and then I don't want to get into it too much, but you look at these people's social media and they literally spend all day, trying to get people doxxed or fired. If you commit the crime of, wearing a keffiyeh on the job, they will go into your to your employer and try to get you fired. And I think one of the things that people really hate about me and people like me or people like Brianna Joy Gray is that you can't get us fired. Because speaking of, and I don't mean to be manipulative, but speaking of Patreon support, I mean, we do rely on your support. And that's why we can say the things we can. But, imagine just being a person who has a regular boss who is trying to support a family, like trying to provide for a family. Hold on, let me get my son. Let me just get my son. Brad, you want to read the super chat while I grab my son?
Well, remind me, Katie, did Brianna get let go?
She did get let go of the Hill, but she wasn't silenced, is my point. So she did. It did kind of work, but she still has so let me just grab my son because we were talking about. You want to read the super chats while I do that?
Sure.
Oops. Let me.
Okay. Let's see here. And thank you so much, everyone, for really nice comments. Just saying thanks and good work and all of that. That's nice alternative to saying I have like a genetic disorder because of all of what's going on up here, which we should probably do a poll. Like, should I just like shave all my hair off and grow a beard or something? I don't know. We might need to see what all of you think, but let's see. Brian Frederick with a super chat. Thanks, Katie. Blair was Bush's poodle on Iraq. Yeah.
I don't like that because that is canine phobic. And here is my son who I was just talking about. And again, luckily I am, as I just mentioned, independently, employed because I could never do anything to risk providing for this pup, Bucky. We have to get him put back. I have to put his Kafia back on. Right now, he
I
only has this.
it
This
never
thing.
ceases to make me laugh, just the direction of his gaze and his like non-acknowledgement of the camera.
Well, he's
I
not the
will
star that Bodhi is. I think Bodhi is
it'll
more trained.
never not be funny to me.
This is not a great bow tie because you can't see it. I mean, partly because of his fur. Well, he really has hair, not fur. Anyway, the underbite is great. Someone wrote to me. I'm not going to blow up his spot, but a former guest wrote to me that he knew an orthodontist if I was looking for one, and I said, so I can get a matching underbite because that's
I
really the
didn't.
only reason.
I misheard. I was like reading other comments. For when I was listening, I thought you meant an orthodontist for dogs, and I was thinking like,
That is what he meant. He was
did,
joking, I think, but no, he doesn't know one. He was, I guess, the
are
joke.
there
Cool
are
joke. I
there
don't know.
orthodontists for dogs? I mean, I guess now that I think about it, I
Someone wrote,
guess that
they
would make
thought that I
sense.
had a human son. No, I have a Bucky son. And he's so cute. And sometimes you don't even know he's sitting on my lap during interviews, and it's so nice and warm. But no, I mean, I jest, but really, these people was his dad a werewolf? Maybe. These people, hairiest little boy I've ever seen. Yeah.
That's funny.
These people, these Zionists, and they're I don't want to like I'm obviously anti-Zionist, but there is kind of a range of Zionists, and some of them are just more overtly psychotic than others. But yeah, I had a little interaction with one of them last night.
This is nice. I don't know if it's referring to me and you or you and Bucky.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but either way,
I don't know.
it better be referring to Bucky.
I've just never seen a dog with braces.
No, because they shouldn't have that. It's ortho shaming. So the dog is a teeny dog. He is pretty small. Are you serious? Someone wrote in Iran we have orthodontic for dogs. Is that true?
I mean, I guess I'm just musing aloud. Like, I suppose when you say orthodontics, I'm immediately like, oh, braces. But I'm sure that category kind of covers a heck of a lot more than just braces.
Yeah. I also
maybe they do Invisalign. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that would be. Can you imagine Bucky tolerating that? He won't even tolerate a toothbrush. Okay, let me just show the this benefit that people should come out for.
And Max Camacho, thanks for speaking about Venezuela with Venezuelans in Venezuela.
Yes, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not just. Unfortunately, Maria Corina Machado couldn't join.
And we have Farzananadim, super sticker. Thank you so much. And new member, Aramis. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So I'm going to share this flyer for the Electronic Intifada benefit. What are you laughing at?
Bucky is an introvert.
I don't know. Maybe he may be an introvert, but you know what? He's also he cares about politics so much that he's happy to kind of push through his comfort zone for the sake of the movement. I know Machado is not in Venezuela. I
like the meme where it says like, introverted but willing to talk about insert topic.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, no, when I said Maria Corina Machado being unavailable, I meant of the Venezuelans not in Venezuela. But here,
look at this.
What?
There are orthodontists and braces for dogs.
No, where? In general or in Iran or where?
I mean, now I'm gonna have to look into this now.
Yeah.
It's an orthodontist.
Oh my God, that's really cute. So here's the information.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no. Here's the Electronic Intifada benefit. I will put a link to that in the description. It is on Saturday. I literally almost went out to it on Friday because I somehow got the date wrong. Shout out to the person who corrected me. It's at Star Bar, which is in Brooklyn, in Bushwick. Yeah, it's going to be great. And you can buy tickets at the door, or you can buy them in advance. And I mentioned Stephen Kaposh, and we love Stephen Kaposh. He is a wonderful human being. He is someone that we've interviewed for the documentary that we're working on. Never Again, which if you haven't heard us talk about it, it's about Holocaust survivors who are protesting the genocide in Gaza. Very important voices, and we're moving along with that. I'm very excited. And here is a wonderful, thank you, Brian, so much. Here's a wonderful photo. So the absolutely wonderful photographer, brilliant photographer, Misan Harriman, who is Nigerian British. In fact, we definitely have to have him on the show. There's a documentary about him called Shoot the People, which we need to see. I think I was in, where was I? Istanbul, somewhere, I can't remember. And I wasn't able to see the screening. But where is that? Hold on one second. I just wanted to show a wonderful photo of Stephen, and there some psycho Zionist commented on it, but I don't honestly want to even show what she said because it's so disgusting.
Oh, yeah, don't do that.
I won't. How do I? Okay, so I'm going to full screen this, but here's a beautiful image of Stephen, one of our characters that we were blessed to follow around.
Thank you so much. Scripture Consolidated gifted 5 Katie Halper memberships.
Thank you. Wow. Oh, and this is a good idea. Buy a ticket. Whoops. Yeah, thank you. Buy a ticket to benefit Electronic Intifada, even if you can't make it in person. Here is Stephen Kapush, who is just so wonderful. He is from Hungary. He was 7 when the Nazis invaded Budapest. He now lives in London, and he's involved in Holocaust survivors and descendants against genocide. We've had him on. Another person who's active in that, who's a descendant of survivors, is the wonderful Haim Bashid Zabner. We have to get him back on the show. Agnes Corey is another wonderful member of that organization. She's another person we've interviewed. And wonderful. There he is, Stephen Kapush, wearing his signature cap.
That's a really nice photo.
It's by Misan Harriman, who again is a totally brilliant photographer. He shows up to lots of protests. As you can see, he has a brace on one of his arms, so he has a cane, and that does not stop him from going out at age 87, I believe. And he really does a wonderful job of connecting his experience as a hidden child during the Holocaust to the experience of what the people of Gaza go through. And he connects the dots, and how there's all this precarity and a decision of what do you do when there are bombs? Do you leave or when you hear of danger, do you go with your family, or do you leave your family members who are too old behind? And no one wants to do that. So really the question is, do you stay behind with them, or do you go? And he's very brave and wonderful, and just so inspiring. I can't wait to bring him back onto the show. He was questioned by the police, of course, because something we didn't get a chance to talk about with Jeremy Corbyn is the fact that there is a total crackdown on free speech in London, similar to the way that there is in the States, although it's a little bit theoretically more built in to the States because of the free speech. I also want to give, let's see if this is a good last week. No, was it last week? Earlier this week, we did a wonderful interview with 2 lawyers, Janine Younes and James Carlson. And Janine and I spoke about what's happening to Mahmoud Khalil, who is the Columbia graduate who has been basically was kidnapped, disappeared. They're trying to deport him. And there's been an update, although I don't want to give people the sense that it's hopeless, because I believe that they're not going to be able to do this because he hasn't exhausted his appeals yet. I'm looking to see if there is anything, let's see, any organizations that we know and trust who have a good update about him. Let's see, Mahmoud Khalil.
I mean, the bottom line is that potentially he would be reincarcerated, yeah?
Well, hold on. They're saying he will be deported. He faces deportation to Algeria. Let's see. I'm trying to to find a latest. Let's see what is. Okay, this is good. I'm so glad that this is our mayor. Here, let's take a look at this clip. Brad, can I add this? Can I send this to you? This is from
Sure.
Middle East Eye. We haven't had Mohammed Khalil on the show. Excuse me, we haven't had Mahmoud Khalil on the show, but we have had on his lawyer, which was wonderful, and I will definitely try to speak to her again. And here is a clip of Mayor Zohran Mamdani. And, you know, we do criticize him on the show, and it's important to hold people's feet to the fire. But, I mean, this would never happen with another mayor. So thank you so much to Zohran for being brave on this. Here is a clip of Zohran Mamdani being asked about the Mahmoud Khalil case.
Just
Just give
one
us a
second.
second. Yeah. And while you get that up, I'll just read some more. Oh,
I
very
just
nice.
think it's
Another fantastic show, Katie, from Brian. Thanks, Brian.
I just think it's, I mean, I don't know, it's beyond parody how this administration pardons war criminals, literally everyone associated with the January 6th insurrection, many of which like went on to do other crimes.
Yeah.
Just the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And now they're going after it just, God damn it.
Yeah, it's really, and then to see people like celebrate this news about him. This is someone who
Those people are out of their mind. I'm
they
sorry.
are.
They're-
I almost feel bad for them because they're such miserable people.
or they're just, I feel like there's a solid percentage of this country. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't think it's the majority, but it, you know, whether it's like 20%, I don't know. They're just indoctrinated into this like mental cult
Right.
because you see Trump over time will say when he's like running for office, you know, I'm gonna stop all the wars, you know, I'll do it tomorrow, and or inflation, I'm gonna take that down, I'll get it done immediately. He'll say one thing and then later either say the exact opposite or do the exact opposite, and without fail, within, I don't know, 72 hours, maybe there's some initial pushback, but within 72 hours, that cohort is just fully on board with everything. Like it doesn't matter.
Right.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
By the
Anyway,
way, we have the wonderful. I mean, we got to have Prem Tucker on regularly. Maybe we can have
Prem's
like
awesome.
he's awesome, right? We can have the like premiere. I don't know, premiere update with Prem. Let's think about a good thing. But he has some relevant. He has a relevant stream that I will share with you right here.
I don't know if you saw. I was just went to this while I was talking about this like brainwashed, you know, sort of mentality. Have you seen this program, Katie? It's called like The Necessary Conversation or something like that, where it's like a son and daughter of this mom and dad. Basically, they're adult children, basically speak to their parents who are, as far as I can tell, incredibly like so far gone, to the point where they would ask their parents like, mom and dad, is there anything that Donald Trump could say or do that you would disagree with, or like, and they would say no, and he would say, well, what if he decided to carpet bomb Oklahoma? And the parents would say like, well, there would have to be a reason. And they're like, so you're saying you would be okay with him murdering like millions of people? And it's just so insane to like hear. And at first it struck me, I'm like, this has to be parody. This can't be like real.
Right. But it's true. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think Hassan Piker recently had them on and did like a 2.5 hour discussion with them, which I recommend everyone checking out if you can stomach it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And Hassan, you got to come on the show. Come on, Hassan.
Yeah.
We've got to make it happen. It'll be really fun. We'll have a fun game. It'll be like, who said it, Hassan Piker or Hitler, which is basically something that Jonathan Greenblatt. No, you know what? A fairer example. Who said it, Hassan Piker or Nick Fuentes? Because Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL loves comparing these guys. And so I think it's going to be a very, very, very easy game. But it'll be fun to play. And we can play without him.
And speaking of other guests that we had, this is the total random thought that just jumped into my head. I saw a magazine yesterday that I took a picture of to show you, but you know who is on the cover of, I think it's Harper's, the recent issue of Harper's is Thomas Frank.
Oh yeah, we got to get him back on. Good question. I mean, good question. Good point. Good reminder.
Yeah, he's great too.
So we have a couple updates. Let's give the update on Mahmoud Khalil.
Yep.
Let's see. We have a video of Zohran Mamdani, Mayor Mamdani, commenting on the latest with Mahmoud Khalil. Let's play that, please.
Khalil has a deportation order to Algeria. I'm wondering, are you doing any back channeling with the president on his case to get that changed?
Mahmoud Khalil is a New Yorker. He should remain in New York City. We have seen this attack on him as part of a larger attack on the freedom of speech that is especially pronounced when it comes to the use of that speech to stand up for Palestinian human rights. And I will make that clear to everyone, and I have said it time and again, that he deserves to stay in this city. He deserves to be in the city just like any other New Yorker.
So very important. We will keep you updated about that. And we have some important stuff from Prem. I'm going to share this. Oh, by the way, can I just interrupt this with a comment from a guy who, Hassan, now you really have to come on because I shouldn't even read this again. I can't help that sometimes sharing what the haters write. This person whose name is Demonic Vodnik, which sounds appropriate, wrote, listen to what he said about us, Brad. 2 RETARDS with no audience want the second most popular streamer, Audacity of Jews. What's hilarious about that is clearly we have no audience, which is why this hate monger is watching our show. So thank you for the views. Thank you for that. You make the audience bigger. We have had views of over 1 million. I'm not comparing myself to Hassan Parker, but we have had views of over 1 million. Sorry, Piker. I got distracted because I'm so passionate about how idiotic this guy is. I'll just say we've had more people watch this show than I assume you have, like, friends or.
Well, regardless of whether it's 1 million people watching or one person watching, I think that if you were to ask Hassan Piker, you know, who would be a bigger deal or who he would hold in higher regard, himself or Jeremy Corbyn, I think he'd probably say Jeremy Corbyn, and it seems like he was happy to come and grace us with his presence, and I'm thankful for that and thankful for everyone else. So, but you know, like I've said to you before, Katie, and as I'm sure everyone on here knows regarding the internet, there's like 1 million people watching, maybe 5 of them are just
exactly
mean.
The haters. Yeah, right. I know.
And it just
I just couldn't. You know why I couldn't help reading that, Brad? Because it's like it's the same thing when people write. If I tweet something out, people will write like, "Wow, you're totally irrelevant." I'm like, right, which is why you're commenting on my tweet. Right. Thank you for approving it. So anyway, I hope that person finds a therapist. And you know, it's also funny, the audacity of Jews. Like, you know who I'm pretty sure would not say something like that? Hassan Piker. You know what I mean? Like, way to taint him. The whole point is that he's not an anti-Semite. We are anti-Zionists on the show, not anti-Semites. Hopefully that person who made that comment doesn't taint the anti-Zionist movement with his bullshit. But let's, okay, you're right. Thank you, Brian. Ignore the chat.
Look, Brian, I've been barking up that tree for years.
All right, I couldn't help it. Okay, so let me just show, I'm going to share this very important update from the great Prem Tucker. And let's think about a good, let's try to think of a good name for a Prem segment. You know, I want to have these regulars on. Okay. New State Department docs show the Trump-Vance Rubio administration detained Columbia student Masa Mandawi for fake news initially propelled by Columbia itself, including that he was yelling at Jewish bystanders when what he was actually doing was confronting an anti-Semitic disruptor. Okay, so this is Masa Mandawi, who was picked up and arrested shortly after Mahmoud Khalil on similarly baseless grounds.
It reminds me, though,
another Columbia student. That's why this is so relevant. Yeah.
Well, and it's also, to me, it's also relevant because I don't know, I doubt that this is a uniquely new development, but certainly in terms of the amount of attention broadly that it's getting, um, the development of, for example, with the murder of Renee Good in Minneapolis, to me, the administration, number one, before there was any investigation, not that it seems like that's not even going to happen, but regardless, before there was any actual investigation, you had the administration literally coming out and
Right.
making condemning statements
Right.
and
As
whatnot,
we
like
covered on
basically,
Wednesday's stream.
right,
Yeah.
right. And but then also backing up, quote unquote, backing up a lot of what they were saying based on this singular bit of video at a specific angle
Right. Yeah.
that viewed in isolation. Arguably, okay, you might see the argument for what they were saying, but it was just you know, a
Yeah.
very cherry picking that,
Right.
and so basically justifying, doing whatever, whether it is murdering someone or arresting
Right.
someone or anything else based on, in some cases, cherry-picked information, in other cases, objectively completely made up
Yeah. Exactly.
information.
So yeah,
That's
let's finish
that
this
yeah,
this thing that because so new State Department. I just want to remind new State Department docs show the Trump Vance Rubio administration detained Columbia student Masa Madawi for fake news initially propelled by Columbia itself, including that he was yelling at Jewish bystanders when what he was actually doing was confronting an anti-Semitic disruptor. And this is okay, and this is a State Department document. Okay, so here's what it says. It says open source reporting also identifies Madawi as behind anti-Semitic rhetoric in the fall of 2024 protests, referring to Israeli Defense Force soldiers as terrorists and shouting through a megaphone at Jewish bystanders and Israeli supporters. Okay, so he criticized uh, someone who is Israeli. Okay, and then the Trump State Department is using the same language Columbia used to smear and punish the school's Student for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace groups who are protests Masa Mandawi condemned as an anti-Semitic disruptor act. Okay, so if the State Department alleged threatening rhetoric and intimidation as reason to deport Masan without elaborating. The phrase doesn't show up much except for Columbia itself when it suspended JVP and SJP after November 23rd rally where Masan shut down an anti-Semitic disruptor. Okay, so this is so important. So Mr. Madawi had engaged in threatening rhetoric, intimidation of pro-Israel bystanders. That's the claim. But Masan, in fact, took the lead on bringing Palestinian and Israeli students together in pursuit of a just peace on campus and in the Middle East. And like every other person in the country is entitled to due process and protections under their First Amendment.
theoretically.
Right, exactly, yeah. So, but I think really what's really important is that these people, I can't do this justice because it's a very kind of involved stream, but I'll prepare it another time. But
Well, and hopefully we can have Prem come on and discuss some of this
yes,
as well.
yeah, but this is it's unretracted that this guy is engaging in anti-Semitic language, even though actually there's footage of him going up.
The first to stop an act of anti-Semitism was 5 of us to go and tell the guy, you don't represent.
Yeah, at a November 2023 rally, he actually mentioned that he went up to someone protesting and said, you don't represent us because we have Jewish brothers and sisters who stand with us, arguing neither Trump administration nor pro-Israel crowd intervened. That is very important. So again, this is an example of anti-Zionists caring more about defeating, smearing, deporting critics of Israel than they do about actual anti-Semitism. Because if they cared about that, then he would be great. They would be grateful to him. But I have another update that I want to play. Share.
And like we've talked about before on the program, and as was mentioned, I'm pretty sure within the last week or two, I think it was touched upon about how, in actuality, the Zionist project requires anti-Semitism.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's why they won't go after actual anti-Semitism because they need it.
Right. Yeah. Where's the the Tal tweet, Nate? I want to share that because we have an update from Mamadou Tal, who we've had on the show. Oh, and by the way, oh, that's actually Brad. That's A5, the Mamadou Tal update. If you don't mind grabbing that. By the way, we had a Jewish guest on who was he used to be an Israeli settler. He's an American. He went to He's American who moved to Israel with his family, became a settler, and then realized that what they were doing was totally unethical, against his morals, and he left Israel, and he's now at Columbia, Jewish, and he worked with Masa Mandawi, and we have we'll link to that interview that we did with him because that was fascinating. So again, these people couldn't care less about anti-Semitism. But another person who was persecuted and threatened by people who want to silence any critics of Israel and want to violate the First Amendment was Brad, do you have this ready?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Can you throw this up on the screen, please? So was Mamadou Tal, who was a Cornell graduate student. So we have an update about this, and he also was on our show recently. Not recent. He was on our show a few months ago. Let me just open this. It's a little too small.
This is so this is his full statement on his recent detention.
I was detained by UK police at Heathrow on Wednesday under Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act 2000, a shadowy airport stop and search power that is routinely misused against activists and disproportionately targets ethnic minorities. I was held for 6 hours. During that time, I was questioned about my childhood, the mosque I attended growing up, the Islamic preachers I followed, and my friendships. My DNA was taken. My phone and laptop were confiscated and remain in police custody. I missed my coach as a result and had to pay out of pocket for another ticket, arriving some hours later. Under Schedule 7, detainees have no right to remain silent. As soon as I disembarked the plane, it was clear they were waiting for me. 3 officers were standing there ready. I was shocked, as this is the 4th time I've returned to the UK since leaving the US. So he lives in the UK. He's from the UK. When I asked why I was being detained, why now, I was told it was about keeping the UK safe. I remember thinking how absurd that sounded. Is opposing genocide now considered a threat to public safety? Well, we know.
Also, just on that, I find that alarming how just replace UK with US, and that's what they're saying here.
Oh, of course. It's not even hidden. Yeah. Okay, well, let's see. Is that the end of his the questioning made that even clearer. The majority of questions were about my personal history, not my political views. At one point, I was even asked whether I had read Karl Marx. This was not a serious counterterrorism inquiry. It was a racist fishing expedition designed to intimidate and punish someone for advocating freedom and opposing mass slaughter. This detention comes after months of targeted repression. In April, I was forced to flee the United States after ICE agents pursued me just days after I filed a historic legal challenge alleging that the Trump administration violated my First Amendment rights. Shortly after taking office, Trump vowed to deport international students who participated in peaceful protests in support of Palestinians, a policy later ruled unlawful by U.S. courts. Before that, in September, I was suspended by Cornell University for participating in peaceful pro-Palestine protests. I have never been accused of, let alone charged with, any crime. This stinks of British complicity in American intelligence operations and human rights abuses, and not for the first time. Powerful institutions on both sides of the Atlantic that support genocide do not want their dirty linen aired in public. The UK needs to come clean about what it knows and why I was detained. Did the Americans ask authorities in the UK, the submissive partner in the so-called special relationship, to stop and interrogate me? My detention also comes in the same week. It emerged that the United Nations raised serious concerns with Cornell University over alleged human rights violations committed against me and another international student following our participation in pro-Palestine protests. UN Special Rapporteur warned that universities are undergoing structural changes to systematically repress expressions of solidarity with Palestine, creating a climate of fear and intimidation. Students are self-censoring, and international students in particular are withdrawing from activism out of fear of deportation. The US and UK have a long and sordid history of intelligence sharing in the service of human rights abuses. Earlier this month, the UK government implicitly acknowledged its complicity in the rendition and torture of Abu Zabuyeda, a Palestinian Guantanamo Bay detainee held and tortured on a CIA black site between 2002 and 2006. The UK settled the case out of court, paying a substantial sum. After years of denying involvement, what happened to me at Heathrow fits squarely within that history. This was not about safety. It was all about silencing dissent, and it will not work. Thank you to all those who have showed support and extended solidarity. Alhamdulillah, I am safe, well, and remain undeterred. The affair belongs to Allah before and after. How do I say that? Alhamdulillah. I think sorry, that means like thank.
Alhamdulillah
Yeah, that means thank
would
God.
be my guess.
Yeah, it's literally thank God, thank Allah.
Yeah.
By the way, something I didn't realize until recently is that Allah is not like the Muslim God. Allah is just it is God. So it can be the Christian God, the Jewish God, or the Muslim God, or I guess the Hindu God.
It's just the word for God.
For God, right. But a lot of people, I think in a kind of Islamophobic way, make it that. Anyway, so let's see. Is there anything? Alhamdulillah. But what accent is what syllable is accented is what I'd like to know.
I also, when he was mentioning how the West doesn't want to air its dirty linen, that reminded me of those comments that we showed earlier with Jeremy Corbyn about the Mark Carney talking at the World Economic Forum, where he, among other things, talks about the rules-based international order. And what struck me, at least there, is, to my knowledge, I've never seen somebody, a Western leader or political figure or someone in power, actually publicly say stuff like that out loud before. Like, everyone knows, they treat, if Israel violates international law, that is framed and treated differently than if pick your black or brown country does it, or scary Muslim country does it, then it's international threat and they're scary terrorists or whatever. But then the same thing or worse happens with Israel, and it's treated completely differently. So the law is all dependent on who is doing it. And that's essentially what Mark Carney said on camera at the World Economic Forum. And to my knowledge, I've never seen them actually say that out loud before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was going to say one more thing, and now I can't remember what it was, but this has been a great show. And Brad, thank you for your astute insight. Thank you, Andreína. Oh my God.
One thumbs up.
One thumb up. And also thank you for this very generous media grand soir. Many thanks from Paris, France, not Texas. Thank you for that. Wow, euros. Very generous euro contribution.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah.
Also, Brian reminds us
probably better healthcare in that Paris than the Texas one.
Right, exactly. Truman tried to buy Greenland before Trump. True.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think would be worth digging into, Katie, is I might not be getting this term correct, but like the technocracy, basically this ideology that my understanding is, like, among other people, Elon Musk's father was into and promoting, and has been around for, I don't know, at least the better part of a century. And you look back at like what they were calling for, and it's basically like what they're calling for now regarding Greenland. Like, when Trump shows a map of North America, Canada, and Greenland, and it's all got the American flag on it. Everything is just America, the US or whatever. Like, that's, someone in the chat is saying technocratic party. Sands of Time 12 says Brad is Targaryen.
I think asks, yeah.
I don't know. I wish I knew what that meant.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think that would be something to maybe look into.
Yeah.
If there's anything there.
Yeah, let's do it. And also, of course, his family is like very Nazi flirtatious orientation. Yeah. We should
Yeah.
have that on. Oh, I know
Yeah.
what I want to do. Something that, you would think would get more attention because it's so significant is that there's going to be like basically like a shutdown in Minneapolis. Hold on one second.
Oh,
Let's see something. It would be nice if people, if the media cover this. But national media is not covering the fact that basically every major school, museum, and arts institution in the Twin Cities and hundreds of local businesses are closed to protest federal occupation.
I mean, I know I mentioned that prior to us going live, that that seems to be the only thing that these psychos are going to respond to is if you mess with their money. And, general strikes, work stoppages, internationally speaking, other countries sanctioning the US. Like, you can't, these people that I see, like from the World Economic Forum or even in the US and Congress making statements about, essentially like dialoguing with Trump or whatever. It's
Right.
like the only thing that this guy respects is like you literally have to like smack him down into his place. Like he responds to strength or messing with his money. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, ICE officers have been so fucking dumb. Some police officers have been off-duty police officers in the Twin Cities have been targeted by federal agents looking for proof of U.S. citizenship.
Right.
Um,
And that
which is awkward.
that led to basically, yeah, so like off-duty cops were then, approached and, ICE are like, where are your papers? And they go through the whole thing and finally get to the point where the off-duty cops are like, we're cops. And then the ICE, without even apologizing or anything, basically just stop talking, turn around, get into the car and leave. And then it seemed like that led to some, police chiefs or whomever kind of making more aggressive statements about ICE publicly, like on camera and whatnot. And I guess great, but at the same time, it just sucks that why did it have to, personally affect these officers, like your employees or whatever? Well, actually, there are employees. Why did it have to directly affect them? Like, why weren't you able to be that forceful when it was happening to
Oh, of course. Right.
non-off-duty
Yeah.
cops,
Yeah, of
like
course. It's
regular
awesome like that.
people?
Yeah. Right. Well, I
Yeah.
always bring up the fact that I just sent you something else, by the way, a tweet by Ken Klippenstein that we'll want to show. It's also relevant, and I often bring up the fact that McCarthy, they finally called out Joseph McCarthy, or they finally kind of put a stop listening to him when McCarthy went after the U.S. Army.
Oh, was that the like have you no shame or
Yes.
have you no
Yeah. The
decency
decency.
moment?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that was when he went after the military?
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah. Now, okay. Another thing that it's important to show is a really good important tweet by from Ken Klippenstein. If we can show the tweet, not just the video, but first the tweet, then the video. And someone says,
Okay.
Katie, do you think U.S. invade Iran? I don't honestly know. I don't put anything past the U.S.
I sure hope not.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I think it would be incredibly stupid because we couldn't, not that I endorse this whatsoever, but we couldn't even successfully
Right.
handle like Iraq or Afghanistan.
Right.
And as has been discussed previously before, if you
That's
can't
the
do
only thing
that,
that stops people from supporting it, unfortunately, as
Yeah,
opposed to the
right.
moral question. Yeah.
but it's like if you can't do that, that those make Iran makes those look like peanuts. Like the population and the size of Iran and their military capability. Yeah, anyone who thinks, oh, that would just be, and it's wild because I mean, I'm old enough to remember the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan and the kind of rhetoric they'd use at the time, like, oh yeah, it'll be quick and easy and it'll be done and no problem, blah, blah, blah. Like I hear the people in the administration using the same rhetoric today about
Yeah.
about like Iran or Venezuela And I just really hope that we collectively develop a little bit of a longer memory.
Yeah. Yep. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So let's take a
So-
look, please, at this
Yeah.
at this tweet from another great reporter, Ken Klippenstein. So he writes, and then we'll show the video. ICE agent asks why he's taking pictures of a legal observer's car, replies, because we have a nice little database and now you consider domestic terrorists. So have fun with that. I don't know why I gave him a New York accent.
That's crazy that he's actually saying that out
I know,
loud.
out loud. Yeah. So let's show a video of this. Let's show the video, please. It's not illegal to record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Why are you taking my information down?
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered a domestic terrorist. So
We're videotaping you? Are you crazy? These guys are they are so insecure and triggered, and they have such problems. I mean, with like their own psychology and insecurity and masculinity.
This guy.
Why are you high? Take off your mask, big boy.
This guy and every single one of them here and all of the rest of them, I have zero interest in hearing anyone trying to be like the Democratic or otherwise nominee for 2028. If you're not centering first and foremost that anybody like this, there's going to be accountability from Donald Trump down to every single one of these pieces of shit. I have no interest in you if you're not saying that.
Good call. So you will not get the Bradley Bloom, the coveted Bradley Bloom endorsement. Yeah, no, it's true. Right. It's true. I mean, as we talked about on our show earlier with James Carlson, there are differences between the Dems and the Republicans. They but they enable the Republicans, and if they want to actually win, they need to run on something like not being just soft core versions of the Republicans. And Cory Booker saying that he needs to raise more money for ICE, right? Which is what we saw in a video that we discussed with James. And then
if you think that saying we're going to look forward, not backward, is going to fly.
Good call. Yes, of course. We tortured some folks. Let's take a look now at there was an update in that thread from Ken Klippenstein.
Oh, I see. Okay. Here you go.
Okay, so update. ICE creating a watch list of anyone and everyone who films them. DHS sources tell me, Department of Homeland Security.
I have a feeling. I think that again, this would, and I'm sure Ken and others have already done this great work, but unfortunately, I can't, off the top of my head, speak to it as well as I would like to. But I'm fairly certain all of this, like this whole topic here about creating this database and whatnot, under the guise of, documenting either like undocumented people or domestic terrorists or whatever. There's a tie-in with like Palantir and basically like all of this information, kind of like in a similar way that like Elon Musk, recently it came out that like we were saying is probably happening when they had like hopped up on whatever stimulants, basically teenagers running rampant inside of the office for like Social Security, with no oversight. They just like took computers and hard drives in there under Doge and doing whatever they want to do. We were told, no, they're not accessing anything they're not supposed to. Well, turns out that wasn't true, and they took a bunch of stuff. Right. With this too, whatever they say is the reason for it, I think that it would be naive to not assume that at some point all of that their information they're collecting, it's going to be used against the scope of what it's used for, or who it's used against is going to basically be everybody.
Right. By the way, I'm not endorsing this because I don't know, but this is get cameras with distance lenses. since ICE using
Oh,
phones. Also, what about glasses with cameras in it? That's, I think, smart.
yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify something on your behalf, if that's okay, Brad. Let me know if I misrepresent you. But someone wrote, I was shocked by Brad logic about invasion of Iran. Invasion is illegal no matter if that is successful or not, Brad. Brad
Well,
was not make. Well, I'll let you talk for yourself.
well,
Oh, you want me to
yeah,
make the case first? Then
yeah,
all right.
go right ahead.
So I'm speaking for Brad when I say that that's precisely the point. I mean, I made this point during the interview with Jeremy Corbyn, which is that unfortunately that, and I said this right after Brad said this, which is that this is what motivates the U.S.
Right.
Brad wasn't saying whether or not the U.S. should invade Iran. He was saying
No.
that given the tactical difficulties of it, he predicts that they won't, because that is what convinces the U.S. to do or not do something. As we know, it's not the morality, legality, or ethics of it. Am I
Because
right?
if we were talking about the legality of it, or the
Yeah.
morality of it, or the ethics of it, there's no conversation to be had there. But that only works if you're talking with people who aren't actual, like, absolute monsters.
Right. Exactly. Right.
And so it's like, yeah, you can say that's illegal or that's
Right.
not right to do that. These people don't give a shit about that.
Exactly. Right. The question was not whether the U.S. should invade Iran. It was whether they were going to, and that is what you look at, not the morality of it. Obviously,
To be clear, they should not
yeah,
invade
of
Iran.
course.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Right. And then something else I wanted to show. What is this? Something was interesting. I can't remember. I think that's about it, right? Is that it? Let's see. Yes, there's a difference between description and prescription. Very good. Very, very good point. And let's see, Nate, anything else? Oh, yes, I got to Brad. I think I'm going to share one more thing actually with the audience, which is, speaking of Democrats' complicity, take a look at this. And this is a post from Democracy Now! This is a vote that happened on Thursday. Okay, so
Remove these 7 Democrats.
yes. Well, don't give it away. On Capitol
Sorry.
Hill, 7 Democratic lawmakers joined Republicans to pass a $1.2 trillion government funding package that includes $64 billion more for the Department of Homeland Security and $10 billion more for ICE. The Democrats voting for the measure were Henry Cuellar. By the way, Nancy Pelosi and others refused to back the woman, Jessica I forget her last name. Was it Cisneros, I believe, who was trying to primary him? And of course, Henry Cuellar is also anti-choice. Henry Cuellar and Vicente Gonzalez, both of Texas, Jared Golden of Maine, Marie Glusenkamp Perez of Washington, Don Davis of North Carolina, and Laura Gillen and Tom Suozzi, both of New York. There you have it. There are their names.
And without digging into the details of this legislation, I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess 2 things. One is, like they do all the time with the rotating villain. Maybe they find some people who can afford to be the villain to get done what they need to get done. But then also, like, notice the headline that you shared. It was a bill that was like over $1 trillion, talking about, like, what was that, like 100 million or something like that, it said, going there. So it's like they will put in something like that, 100 million for ICE in a bill that has, like, I don't know, like, funding for senior citizen homes or something like that, basically to hold you hostage. So, like, if you vote against it because of that, well, then you're voting against funding for senior citizen homes, which I think we've gotten to the point where, yeah, you should absolutely do that. You should. I think it was Kyle Kalinske that said a long time ago, like, you have to be willing to shoot the hostage, metaphorically speaking. Like, similar, like within the Democratic primaries and stuff like that, the
Right.
DNC will always, like, try and
He doesn't mean that
put,
literally, yeah.
no, yeah, no, not figuratively speaking. Put the public into a scenario where it's like you need to choose between what you would want and, like, the destruction of all mankind, or no, I'm sorry, a choice between like voting for Hillary Clinton and the immediate destruction of all mankind, or something like that. Like, and at a certain point, I tend to agree with, like, in a lot of these scenarios, you have to kind of reject that and refuse to play that game. But I don't know. I'm not in that position. I've never been in that position, so I can't say that. But I can say that that short list of Democrats suck and are pieces of shit. So
yep. Have a nice dinner this weekend, Katie. Love the surprise Friday stream. Thank you, Brian. Also, please please do become Patreon supporters if you're not already. And if you haven't seen, if you're watching this later, not live, and you want to see the full interview with Jeremy Corbyn, you can do that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Right, Brad?
One thumbs up.
One thumbs up, yeah. We will see you Tuesday night, if not before. And keep the faith. And oh, that's Brianna Joy Gray's thing. But
oh no,
that's not. Yeah. Oh God.
She's gonna call you now, and
yeah, right. Yeah. And yeah, if you're in New York City, go out to that.
Yes.
That we'll put the link into there to that fundraiser for Electronic Intifada.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Phantomus Fanta, for the clips. Thank you, Nate, for the research. And we will see you at least Tuesday. Bye, everyone.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
And I don't know what the I'm doing.
Antifa!